Hey hockey fans, it's Brett Hornby here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel here. And I figure, since everyone's making their brackets here for the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs here, I figure I wanted to make a quick video and go over my bracket here and who would I ultimately think is going to win each series in the first round here and how many games, and then go look down then to eventually who I think is going to win the Stanley Cup here in 2019 here. So now that all the games are pretty much about to start here, my bracket is now locked in stone here, and I like my selections here obviously, and let's hope it comes to fruition here. So I'll just bring up my bracket here, and let's go over each matchup and who I think is ultimately going to advance and win the Stanley Cup here. So if you go out east here, I'm going to start east and go west, and then we'll advance the bracket here. So that you have the number 1 seed take on the second wild card. So the Tampa Bay Lightning's number 1 seed. They're taking on the second wild card, the Columbus Blue Jackets here. So I have Columbus, or I don't think Columbus will have a chance to advance here unless Sergei Bobrovsky really stands on my head here. So ultimately I have the Tampa Bay Lightning going off in 5 games. So the next piece of the bracket here is the Atlantic Division here. This would be the 2-3 matchup where the Boston Bruins are the number 2 seed taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs, number 3 seed, and this is the finish off the Atlantic part of the bracket here, because the Tampa Bay Lightning won the Atlantic Division there, and with this original 6 matchup here between the Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs, well, I think once again, I think the Boston Bruins will get the better of the Toronto Maple Leafs here, and I have the Boston Bruins going on to the second round in 6 games here, which will definitely set up a heavyweight matchup when I get to advance the bracket here. So if you look on the Metropolitan side of things here, the Washington Capitals won the Metropolitan Division, so they got the other top seed, and they take on the number 1 wild card here, which is the Carolina Hurricanes, and they're making their first playoff appearance in 10 years here. So you got the defending Stanley Cup champion Washington Capitals here taking on the upstart Carolina Hurricanes here. And I'm anticipating this is going to be a very entertaining series, and I think all 7 games will be needed to decide this one. But I'm going to give the edge to the Washington Capitals. So the Washington Capitals I have advancing in 7 games over the Carolina Hurricanes here, as I still say, Alexander Ovechkin alone, and definitely Braden Holtby definitely gives them the edge in key areas, offense and goaltending there. Carolina does have a pretty solid defense there, but they're going to have their hands full with Washington here. So the last matchup in the Eastern Conference here is the 2-3 matchup. You had the New York Islanders finishing second, and the Pittsburgh Penguins finishing third here. And once again, I'm seeing this series going to need all 7 games here, but I'm not discounting the Pittsburgh Penguins here, despite being the lower seed. And I got the Pittsburgh Penguins advancing in 7 games over the New York Islanders there. When you got Matt Murray, who's proven himself to has led the team to 2 championships there, and you got guys like Sidney Crosby, Kenny Malkin, Jake Gensel, and if Chris Letang is healthy, a lot of pieces of the Pittsburgh Penguins are still there that won them their back-to-back cups in 16 and 17 there. So I got the Pittsburgh Penguins advancing here. So before I advance into the bracket here, let's take a look at the Western Conference here first, and then I'll tee up the other matchups here as we eventually get to the Stanley Cup here. So if you go to the Pacific side of the bracket here, I got the Calgary Flames. They were the top seed in the Western Conference there, taking on the second wild card, the Colorado Avalanche here. And I say the Calgary Flames definitely should have a favorable matchup here, as they definitely have a deeper offense and deeper defense. Goaltending, I mean, is a push at this matchup here, but I do have the Calgary Flames advancing in 5 games here, so I have the Flames going on in the second round there. So in the 2-3 matchup of the Pacific Division, I got the San Jose Sharks and who are second, taking on the Vegas Golden Knights, who are third here. I think this will be an entertaining series, and they're a physical one here that I think is going to need all 7 games here. But I think there's still some magic in Vegas here, and I'm going to give the Vegas Golden Knights the win here in 6 games actually. Well, I think it's going to take. I could see it 6 or 7 games, but fishing in my bracket, I have Vegas going on in 6 games here. I mean, Vegas was definitely, it all depends on Marc-Andre Fleury if he stays healthy here, but the Vegas Golden Knights down the stretch there definitely looked a lot more lethal than the San Jose Sharks. They kind of tailed off a little bit there, so I got the Vegas Golden Knights advancing here. So now, if you look at the central bracket here, the central part of the bracket here, the Nashville Predators won the Central Division there, as they are taking on the first wild card, the Dallas Stars here, and this will definitely be an interesting battle here, as both teams have strong goaltending here, but Nashville definitely just has a little more offense and defense here that I feel like that. This could be a low-scoring series though, and could require some marathon games here based on how this matchup goes. But I think ultimately the Nashville Predators will pull this out in 6 games here, and then the last series in the first round in the Western Conference here is the 2-3 matchup, where you have the Winnipeg Jets taking on the St. Louis Blues here, and the big question mark here is, can Winnipeg use home ice to their advantage there, especially with the whiteout there, and St. Louis Blues, can they sustain what they did in the second half of the season with Jordan Binnington and Craig Berube definitely was finding some magic after he took over Mike Yeo here, but I could definitely see this series being a very close one here, and I do have the Winnipeg Jets winning this one in 7 games here, because I think ultimately Winnipeg has a little more talent there, and home ice will definitely play to their advantage there. So that brings us down to the final 8 here. So going back to the Eastern Conference here, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning advancing and the Boston Bruins advancing, so that would mean that's who they'll play each other in the second round here. Plus another classic matchup in the second round here. When you look at the Metropolitan here, is I got the Washington Capitals and the Pittsburgh Penguins here. So they didn't ask us anything about games and that. They just, after when you filled out the first round bracket and number of games here, you just pick who I think is going to advance here. So between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Boston Bruins here, which is definitely going to be a heavyweight matchup here, because you got the first overall team taking on the third overall team here. But I think the Tampa Bay Lightning is too stacked overall here, and I have the Tampa Bay Lightning beating the Boston Bruins here. And then, I haven't heard of this before, the Washington Capitals and the Pittsburgh Penguins meeting each other once again in the playoffs. Alexander Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby here, and this was definitely a thorn in the side for the Washington Capitals over here when they got over that hump in the second round last year to eventually go on to win the Stanley Cup here, and I think Washington will do it again this year, and they'll knock off the Pittsburgh Penguins here, the Battle of the Birds. So I got the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Washington Capitals advancing in the second round there. So if you go back west here, I had the Calgary Flames advancing and the Vegas Golden Knights advancing here. And I definitely think the interesting thing, if that series comes to be, is can one team win on the road? Because the season series has favored where the Flames won all the games big at home, and then the Vegas Golden Knights winning their games at home themselves, winning small there, and obviously facing Marc-Andre Fleury here. But Marc-Andre Fleury has played also most of the games in the season, and you have to think eventually, considering they're only in their second season in the NHL here, is the Vegas Golden Knights fantasy going to continue here? But I do have the Calgary Flames advancing and going into the third round there, or the Vegas Golden Knights here. And then on the other series here, I got the Nashville Predators and the Winnipeg Jets here, and it was a very close Central Division there between 1 and 3 there. But I anticipate this will be another close series, and once again having the Nashville Predators and Winnipeg Jets meet each other in the second round here, and I'm going to say history is going to repeat itself, just like the Washington-Pittsburgh series, and I think the Winnipeg Jets will pull this one out and advance to the third round here. So my final four is I got the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Washington Capitals in the East for the second year in a row. And then out west, I got the Calgary Flames and the Winnipeg Jets here. So in all Canadian, at least a Canadian team will be guaranteed to be in the Stanley Cup Finals here. So out east here, I got the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Washington Capitals meeting in the Eastern Conference Championship there. And as you recall, last year, the Tampa Bay Lightning actually had a 3-2 lead against the Washington Capitals in the Eastern Conference Final last year, but the Washington Capitals came back and won the final two to advance to the Stanley Cup Finals here. But I think this year the Tampa Bay Lightning will get the better hand on the Washington Capitals here. So the Tampa Bay Lightning will be representing the East and go to the Stanley Cup Finals there. It will be the third time in franchise history that the Tampa Bay Lightning have gone to the Stanley Cup Finals here. So out west here, definitely going to be interesting with the Flames and Jets here. See red versus the white out here. I'm figuring this will definitely be a very entertaining series here, but the Flames have proven in the regular season here that they definitely have a little more offensive depth here, and I'm going to say that Calgary Flames will represent the West and will get to the Stanley Cup Finals here. And so we're going to have a rematch of 2004. You'll have the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Calgary Flames playing each other for the Stanley Cup here. And unlike 15 years ago, I think the Calgary Flames will be hoisting the Stanley Cup here. My bonus answer was I think 28 goals will be scored in the series here, because I think if the Calgary Flames and the Tampa Bay Lightning do meet in the Stanley Cup Final here, there'll definitely be a lot of goals here. But all intents and purposes, I'm going to say if the Calgary Flames and the Tampa Bay Lightning meet in the Stanley Cup Finals, the Calgary Flames will win it in 6 games and will win the Cup and bring it home at home in front of the Sea of Red here. That's my bracket for the 2019 Stanley Cup playoffs here, as I have the Calgary Flames winning the Cup over the Tampa Bay Lightning here, and revenge would be so much sweeter 15 years later here. And I mean, they broke our hearts 15 years ago. I just figure let's return the favor, especially after their 62-win season here. But hey, this is just my predictions here, and I can dream here, but I legitimately think that the Calgary Flames do have what it takes to not only get all the way to the Stanley Cup, but actually win it, and win it over the Tampa Bay Lightning there. And you know, that game back in December there, where we showed that we pushed Tampa Bay to the 7th round of shootout there. Yeah, they did beat us 6-3 in Tampa Bay, but it's a one-game showdown. It was on the part of a road trip here where it's just one game and that's it. But in a 7-game series, I think the Calgary Flames have what it takes. So this is just my opinion. This is my bracket here, and maybe you could call me a little biased here, but it's been fun following the Flames here. And yes, it would be awesome if we do draw the Tampa Bay Lightning again and get some revenge here. Although we had to wait 15 years, we had revenge on the Montreal Canadiens, and we had to wait 3 years from 1986 to 1989. But it's been 30 years. Calgary's due to finally win another Stanley Cup here. So anyway, I'll see you at the next video here.